Welcome to the beautiful, sunny, blue skies of the south of France. If you see this, you just want to go there, don't you? This is stage one of Étoile de Bessèges, a 5-day stage race taking place in the south of France. The first stage today from Bellegarde to Bellegarde is... well, if you look at the profile, a stage for the sprinters, but it has a nasty finish climb. And we've seen last year that, well, if you want to win this, you really have to time the sprint well. Beautiful images here of the Camargue, where we are racing at the moment. Bellegarde, just a little bit south of Nîmes and northwest of Arles, if you want to picture where we are racing. My name is José Bain, and with me today is Adam Blythe. Adam, welcome.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
As in France and all that.
Yeah, we're being very international straight from the gun. If we look at these live images, there's a lot of wind out there today, isn't there?
Yeah, it's a funny one today, isn't it? Because there's a lot of wind and it's kind of like, remember when the Tour of Qatar was on it? There's a lot of wind and everyone knows it's coming. There's always a mad rush into it, but ultimately nobody really wants it to split. So everybody comes to the front, they congregate to get in that position, but no one puts in that initial big effort to split the peloton. They might do later on, but this early on, no one stresses too much about being that first person to put in that move, because when you do, you've got to commit to it, and it could split the whole race up, and if your leader's not there, it'll just cause absolute chaos. So I think it will split eventually, but I think for the majority of the race, we're just going to see this just completely spread across the whole road, just trying to protect their leaders wherever they might be.
Well, that's going to be a challenge then today. 76 kilometers to go still, and we have one guy in the breakaway. Very courageous, or maybe, well, not a smart move to do. This is the profile. If you look, it's 80 meters at the most, or 60 meters actually. But that finish climb is rather difficult. It's this third year running that we are going to do this one. In 2020, we also had a stage where the wind played havoc on the peloton. It was a stage win by Alexis Brunel ahead of Benoît Cosnefroy and Edward Plankaart. And last year, we did have a bunch kick where Nacer Bouhanni opened the sprint just a tad too soon, especially on the first few hundred meters of that finish climb, or finish bump, I should say. It's not really a climb. Is it a climb, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, it goes uphill. Depends when you ask me. When I was in peak condition, no, definitely not a climb. Now, a motorway bridge is a climb. So, yes, it's definitely a climb.
Yeah, well, that's about as climby as we get here in the Netherlands. So, for me, everything that goes higher than 2 meters is a climb. But that stage was won by Christophe Laporte. He's not here, of course. He made the move to Jumbo-Visma to be one of the henchmen of Wout van Aert in the Spring Classic season. And if you ask me, great signing there by the Dutch team. But we do have a start list with, well, some really big names on it.
Very big names indeed. And one which stands out to me is obviously Filippo Ganna. I think he's obviously got that time trial in hand. And I think if we look at last year's result and how the race was ridden for Ineos, is we had Bernal there and Kwiatkowski, if you remember rightly, the group split on a climb, and Kwiato there, Mikhail Kwiatkowski, he really drove hard on the front, which led Tim Wellens to be sat on the back, Bernal not able to sprint against Tim Wellens, etc. And ultimately just putting time into the chaser, who was Ganna at the time. So maybe they are looking with a time trial to protect Ganna through this race, so we can maybe get the overall as well if he can hang on up the climbs, which we both know he's a very capable climber. Not the best, but capable.
Well, we do have quite a treat waiting for us on Saturday. Well, maybe for us, maybe not for Filippo Ganna, because that finish climb on stage 4 has gradients that hardly drop under 10%. So even for Ganna, that might be a little bit too much. But like with every climb, it kind of depends on how fast you ride it.
Exactly. Exactly. I think he'll be all right. I'm gonna say it now. He's going to be fine.
He's going to be fine. And he's going to be in Paris-Roubaix this year. Well, that is something to look forward to. And oh, those poor cobbles that he is going to crush. Filippo Ganna, of course, last year was not possible to do Roubaix due to the fact that he had to do World Championships. I think that was like 10 days after. But this year he will be going to Paris-Roubaix, and that will be a fantastic sight to see. But Ineos Grenadiers are here with a rather young team. Two neo-pros, Magnus Sheffield, the rider who was on the podium in the junior race in Harrogate, and Kim Hajduk, a very young German rider, and also very young, but technically not a neo-pro, is Ben Chulett. This is his third year as a professional rider. Also on the team with Ineos are Eddie Dunbar, Laurens de Plus after a year of injuries, and Richard Carapaz. Well, if we look at somebody to climb a mountain on stage 4, it might as well be Carapaz. 9 World Tour teams here, no less. Of course, the French are here with AG Desert, Citroën, and Groupama, FDJ, and Cofidis, including Thibaut Pinot, who asked for this race. Of course, Pinot has been injured for quite some time with a persisting back injury, but he really wants to race. And Adam, how important are these early season races? Has that changed over the years?
It's not changed at all. No, they're very important indeed. And I think with, Down Under missing, I think a really key thing to what we see there is Down Under used to be a World Tour race. It was a big target for a lot of riders. You see the likes of Richie Porte always winning up the famous Wollonga Hill. This year it went up there as well, but because it's not a World Tour race, we've not seen the usual Richie in there. So I think it all depends on the race that you go to, but obviously everyone wants to start the season well. Everyone wants to start the season with a bang and sort of build on from that, and it does wonders to your confidence. If you're going in knowing that you're already at a good level and you can keep building on it, it's brilliant. But if you're on a bad level already, you're already chasing your tail. So for a lot of these riders, it is crucial they get off to a good start, and crucial they try and get a good result in early on, because obviously the better it... crash there, I think, in the peloton by the looks of things, or a lot of braking, I think. Something seemed to happen there, but yeah, you can see by all the riders as we talked about, Jose's, there's a crash that just happened. That's a typical thing what happens at the start of the season. A lot of eager people, a lot of crosswinds. We see it in all the races, but this part of the year, especially when everybody is just trying to get to the front, I'm just trying to make out what riders are there.
We've got 2 riders of Cofidis and 2 riders of the French third division team, Saint-Michel. Let's see again what happens.
Oof.
Big domino.
Yeah, not what you want, but I think it was Champasson there, if that's pronounced right. Clement, number 14 from AG2R, went down, so that'll be a crucial guy for the likes of Greg van Avermaet.
Yeah, and he's of course no bad rider himself. Of course, won a stage in the Vuelta last year, Champoussin. So he might have some fun later this week. But yeah, Greg van Avermaet, you mentioned the name. It's not been a great 2 years for Greg. Of course, last year was on the podium in Flanders, but after the Spring Classic season, we didn't really see anything that impressive from Van Avermaet, and he has already expressed that he wants to use this race to, well, just like you explained, Adam, kickstart the season and start it off well, because, yeah, it's not been plain sailing, and he's been going on a little bit. I think he's 35, 36.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I think all these riders, we can see a turn coming up, riders going left and right now, just trying to move up, and I think this is the part where they go into a slight, ever so slight bit of a crosswind, cross tailwind. You can see the riders at the front accelerating, trying to line it out, stay in that front position. But I think with Greg there, I don't think much has changed with Greg in particular. I think you see a lot of riders, the likes of Thomas de Gent at the Tour de France, Philippe Gilbert. These riders haven't necessarily got worse, and this is the move. Look, starting to come along a little bit. Alpecin Fenix trying to put it in the gutter.
Dries de Bont, the big riders, Guillaume van Kersburg, indeed, the big guys are trying to create a little bit of echelon action here. Great catch there, Adam. There's always you always have to be aware when something happens. When there is a turn, there might be action. But judging from the flag that I just saw on the side of the road, it seems there's not enough wind at this part of the course just yet.
No, there's definitely not, and you can see riders moving up I'm not going to say easily on the right-hand side of our screens, but moving up quite easily. The peloton is strung out, obviously, but the big bubble towards the front implies it is not quite enough when you can see they're going quickly. And the reason they might have done this is going into another corner. If the wind changes again, and there's Van Avermaet on third wheel, as we spoke about. The rider is looking to get something out of this race, try and see where he is, a little bit of form, just coming to the front now, but the wind is picking up ever so slightly. Just a little turn in the road can make all the difference there.
Very active racing there as well by Antoine Duchesne, the Canadian on the French Groupama FDG team. And also at the front for Team Arkea Samsic is Clément Rousseau.
Yeah, you can just see how messy it is. All the riders flat out. It's going very, very quick. The speed is high, but you could just see behind riders sort of on the left-hand side of that gutter, then another little bubble again. That's the riders trying to move up, and the riders that are in that sort of straight line, but quite happy with where they are. Not too stressed, but look, another little change in direction, a little kink towards the left, and that could just be enough to just get one rider, two riders to split. But you could, another little crash into the ditch.
Oh, that was a bad one. Yeah. Somebody just ended up on the wrong side of the tarmac there.
Just trying to hug that gutter, I think, aren't they? Just trying to get us in the shelter as much as they can, but I just don't think the wind here is quite strong enough or just in the right direction for these riders to be able to split at the minute. I think if it was going to split, it would probably split already by now, but you can just see not quite all in one long line, which I love seeing on telly.
Not so much when you were still out there, I think. It looks painful.
Yeah, it definitely does indeed. But Chris Lawless now on the front from Total Direct Energy. I think he's at a third place to the season already. So he's obviously in good form, and a day like this for Chris with crosswinds, etc., is one that will suit him more. Not quite the finish, but able to do a good job for his teammates if he's up there.
Thibaut Pinot is now trying to catch back on, I think.
I think this is the point now. A couple of riders, look, you can see them coming to the front a little bit more.
Effort there by Tom Squinch as well. Guillaume van Kersburg, of course, the big rider from Belgium.
Yeah, you can just see riders starting to split a little bit now. The groups are just splitting ever so slightly. There's one of the, I think it's an EF rider there, just trying to bring that large group back on. But just from that crash alone, just a few gaps being opened up. There's one of the victims there of that crash. Number 31, Pascal Ackermann, so a sprinter, their new signing from Bora Hansgrohe. He's hit the deck, but back on his bike. Eddie Dunbar just in front of him, and that's what happens when you get into these crashes. You can see all the bunches in front of him. He's going to just try and get through today, I think, probably without crashing again. But beautiful. Look at this. Absolutely fantastic. 1, 2, 3, 4 groups on the road. That last group there, that fourth group, is the group that's Ackermann is in.
I don't know if you can hear me. Lead of the race there, many teams represented, big bulky guys, of course, this part of the stage. And look at the tempo. According to my information, we should still, we just caught Lindsay de Wilde. We haven't mentioned him, but he was the one at the front all by himself. He had a lead of about 4 minutes and was just caught by the peloton that has, well, increased speed considerably.
Yeah, it's very interesting when you look at the group at the front now. I've just saw a little...
Early on in the stage, still 66 kilometers to go. And this is going to hurt some legs, don't you think?
Yeah, it's definitely going to hurt a lot of the riders' legs, and you can see Richard Carapaz right to the front there. So their team Ineos's leader for this race, Filippo Ganna, as well, a crucial member of the team trying to stay up there on GC, and I believe that's the new signing there, just coming through to the front from Ineos Grenadiers, Kim Hajduk. I think that's how you pronounce it. Apologies if not. But yeah, this group seems to be splitting, and you can just see they've not gone totally to the left-hand side of the road there, just a split in pictures there, but just not quite all the way to their left, and that makes it difficult for the riders trying to get in. It squeezes rider out, reduces the group ever so slightly. So if that front rider moves all to the left-hand side of the road, it gives a little bit more room, encourages more riders to come through, which will enable them to then help and speed up the pace a little bit. I believe I saw Mads Pedersen then just towards the back as well from Trek Segafredo, so a quick rider. Not sure if the finish is suited to him today, but he's obviously keen to try. Filippo Ganna now coming to the front. I mean, if he's in there, Carapaz in there, he will commit to doing this. It's great for Carapaz on the overall victory, but also for Ganna as well. If he can put distance into some of the riders that are maybe better at climbing than him for that last climb on day 4, as we mentioned there, then if he can, you know, as I said, get a little bit of time in between them, that could put him in a great position. If he loses 20, 30 seconds on the climb, he still may be in with a chance of the overall with that time trial on the last day, which we know he is very, very good at indeed.
Well, some of the riders caught at the wrong side of the peloton. Alex Coleman, one of the riders at the back, also Jordan Chiga, and Rafael Parisella, Canadian rider, new on the B&B Hotels team. And at the front, it's Ganna time. Can you hear me again?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, sorry, I missed a bit of what you were telling, so I might be saying the same things over and over again, but I'm pretty sure that you already mentioned Filippo Ganna.
We did mention Ganna. I was just saying how important it is for him, for everyone listening at home. If guys that are, you know, the great climbers that are looking to get the overall in this race and be up there, if they're not in this front group now, he's going to put crucial time into them. Obviously, if this carries on going to the finish, which it might not, it might do. But this is crucial for him to be up there, especially with Carapaz as well. I think the two leaders of this team being at the front, I think they've got, as I mentioned, Kim Hajduk there. Is that the correct way to pronounce it?
I think so, yeah. Young German national champion, signed for the team. Well, maybe a bit of an unknown name for us, but Ineos do their research pretty well, so I think we can expect big things from him.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think he's a rider, obviously, because it's in this front group, something to prove as well. As we shall call him a neo-professional. He's not technically, but he's near enough a neo-professional. So I think if he's in that group still, he's obviously done the training right, and it's fantastic for a young rider to come into a team alongside the likes of Ganna, Carapaz, to be able to help them in this situation.
Most definitely. Of course, we got Tom Squinch there, Owen Dahl. Not Owen Dahl, I mean, some people are on new teams. I'm completely confused now. I'm sure he's there, but we'll have to confirm that a little bit later. Rather small group.
I think it's Wisniewski, the Polish rider from EF, and I've seen Betiol in there, as you mentioned as well. So not too many riders, but Total Direct Energy with a few riders up there. Chris Lawless, as we talked about already.
Yeah, they did a good race on Sunday as well. We have Antoine Duchesne there, the Canadian, in the colours of Groupama FDJ. They didn't change their kit over the winter season, so easily recognisable for us. Some other names with Thibaut Pinot, Bruno Armirail, the big rider on his wheel, and right ahead of him is Sebastian Reichenbach. But this might be a second group.
Yeah, or even a third. They're definitely a long way back though. I mean, that's what a good, at this speed, 15-20 seconds at the minute, and with these crosswinds, you can see, even just by looking at those two different camera shots that we had a minute ago, you can see the difference in speed and the difference in cohesion within the group. That front group is flat out trying to go as fast as they possibly can, and extend this gap, where this group is just rolling through. You can see the riders, how sort of bunched up they are just behind those riders that are rotating. A couple of riders aren't following through, so they don't want to do too much work. So I think that front group, if they really, really commit to it and keep going all the way to the finish, it will be very difficult to get back.
It's going to be difficult indeed with the firepower that we saw at the front. It's not really going to ease off at this moment. The wind will only increase towards the evening. Those typical Mistral winds that you have in the south of France, coming from the valley of the Rhône River, really causing some chaos in this part of the world, the south and southeast of France, and it can be absolutely terrible. On the top of Mont Ventoux, they had wind speeds of up to 170 kilometers an hour last night.
Wow, that would be good for the Strava on the way down. All the way up, all the way up.
Oh, and the Dutch can't bring their caravan. They can't. You see, 34 kilometers an hour northern wind, meaning that we have cross tailwind when we go into the finish line. But we are going to be crossing the finish line one time before, and that's 17 kilometers from now. So we're going to see that little finish climb before we actually going to do that for the stage victory. With number 21 there in this peloton, and this group at the front is getting ever smaller, with some riders really struggling at the back there.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? You've got sort of the same riders that are always pulling through on the front. You can just see as they've changed direction ever so slightly. The road is narrowed. There's left and right of each side. The road's slightly narrower. They're not edging towards the left-hand side of the road now, so they've obviously changed direction. And just being up at the front on those moments where the road narrows, you change direction, is just either going back a little bit so you can save some energy, or moving up so you can be in a safer place. And a lot of riders there, we saw the Ineos riders all together towards the front. They've gone to the back a little bit, so knowing from the team director or the road book, if they've looked at it beforehand, knowing that the direction is going to change, knowing that they can save a little bit of energy, they don't have to keep turning round at the front. So in these situations, it is very crucial that you have a team director that can give you that little bit of information, where you can have a 2-minute little bit of a, I'm going to say rest, you still have to pedal the bike, but a little bit of a breather, let's say, and that can be the difference on a tough day like this going into the finish.
I think we have about 25 riders here, 3 representing riders of the Union X team as well. That is interesting. Will be interesting to see some more names of the riders here as they cross this lovely little village. 45 seconds already between this first group and the peloton, but still 1.5 hours to go. So still a long way to the finish line.
Long way indeed. I wouldn't say an hour and a half though. I'd probably say 59k an hour. I'd probably say there'd be hour and 10 minutes at this speed.
At its peak, most definitely. But we'll get a headwind as well. So rest assured.
That's true.
It's true. It's a little bit of a circuit that we are going to do. Like I said, we're going to cross the finish line 16 kilometers from now, and then we're going to do a little circuit, meaning that we get wind from all sides, including the dreaded headwind side.
Yeah, that's true, which will be, you know, some of these riders in this group will be sat at the back going, when's it going to be the headwind? So some of them will obviously love it, and others won't. The likes of Garner and these guys, that gap's getting bigger. You can see the neutral service car there in the middle of them now, so that gap has gone above 30 seconds. And as we spoke about, Jose, before the start of the show, Greg Van Avermaet in that front group. So obviously starting well, he's obviously got the legs, putting himself in the right position. He has a lot of experience to get there, but making sure he's in the right place, he's definitely done that.
Yeah, and you can see from this peloton that there's not one team taking charge. Of course, the big teams have the riders they want at the front. Union X, they have got 3 riders at the front, and nobody's really taking on this chase, meaning that the gap will soon be 1 minute and up. Here we are at the back with Tony Galopin, who's been pretty successful in this stage race in the past, winning it, winning stages, winning that time trial as well. That's always the traditional time trial on the Sunday. But Tony Galopin is not the same as the man we've known a while ago. He's getting on a little bit in age, but well, he returned to Trek Segafredo and will be doing his share, but I don't think we will see him in his form that he had in previous years.
No. Or maybe he has still got that same form. The only difference is everyone else has just got better form now.
That's so true, and painful as well.
Yeah.
From this helicopter shot, let's see how big, well, 48 seconds actually is. As we change direction again. But they really have to start working together. One lonely rider there, waiting to be picked up by the peloton. There seems to be a little bit more chasing going on there with the boys in bright yellow. That is, of course, the Pauwels-Sauzen Bingels team, sponsored by mayonnaise. That must have been a team that
sold popular. A lot of mayonnaise.
Yeah. Sponsored mayonnaise. Sponsored by mayonnaise and ketchup as well, by the way.
Yeah,
they have all sorts of sauces and these big inflatable sauce bottles as well at cyclocross races.
Nice. Yeah, you can just see with that cohesion, sorry there, Jose, is that everyone still in this front group is turning around. Is that Edvald Bosenhagen? It is.
He was good. He was good on Sunday as well. He launched his sprint just a little bit too early, but his teammates obviously had faith in him in the Grand Prix La Marseillaise, the first race on French soil. And, well, they seem to have faith in him today as well, because he's in that front group. And if you look at the finish line today, it might be interesting for him.
Yeah, I think he'll definitely try, you know. I think he's obviously got good form. Had a go the other day, as you said, and wasn't too far off, really. I think that's the best we've seen him in a couple of years so far this year. He's got Chris Lawless in there, obviously a very capable sprinter and a lead-out man with a third place this season. So another one of his riders there as well is Fabien Dubé. So he has teammates in there. He's got quite a lot of them as well, so no doubt they'll try and look after him. You can just see the wind has changed ever so much now. Not really spanning across the road as we have seen them done, more of a tailwind or a headwind that they're riding into now. Doesn't look to be a headwind. I'm just trying to look at VeloView to see whereabouts they are and if they're riding into a headwind. But if they are going into a headwind, they're still going quite quickly.
Yeah, the first 2 hours of the race have not been very fast. We had this one solo rider at the front, the Belgian Lindsay de Velde, very prolific champion on the track. But now the situation has changed, and it seems like the gap is stabilizing, although the GPS might be off as well.
Ever so slightly. Yeah, they're definitely riding into the headwind now. It's interesting what sort of teams you have at the front just continuously rotating, whereas behind you it's such a big mix of riders to the front in this chasing group. They're 48 seconds behind that front group. There's always one Ineos rider, there's always a couple of Total Direct Energy riders, and the other riders just sat on behind now in the headwind, just trying to save that little bit of energy. They're obviously not being shouted at to come through. They're not trying to fight in the crosswind to go through, and that's what we see a lot in crosswinds, where riders do come up to the front just to hold their position. It's obviously an easier place to be for some riders. Other riders are quite happy. We know Mark Cavendish is one of the greats at riding in crosswind, can sort of put himself in that position without going to the front too much. So yeah, I think the riders that are sitting towards the back now are quite happy for a little bit of headwind and a ever so slight rest, as opposed to the riders on the front, which are riding very, very hard into a headwind. I would not be one of them.
Oh, don't be so hard on yourself.
I'm not. I'm being so honest. It wasn't in my contract that I ever had to ride on the front.
Oh, that's a good thing to have in your contract.
Yeah,
then.
Exactly.
Filippo Ganna is, of course, one of the biggest engines in this first group. But also look at the representation from Total Energy. 4 riders at the moment, 3 as well from OX. And remarkably, the same riders are also leading the peloton at the moment. So there might be a little lack of communication there between the Scandinavian teammates.
Yeah, definitely. Greg van Avermaet just towards the back, as we said, just trying to get that little bit of respite. And I think just towards the back there is Bettiol, the last man right on the back. So just Obviously, he's in that front group trying to do as little as possible. He's got a couple of teammates in there willing to ride on the front, but not too much. You know, there's enough riders in here with the likes of Ineos, with Carapaz in there, Ghana as well, that can do not the majority of the work, but more work than others. They've got a lot more to gain today in terms of the overall race situation. If they are targeting stages for the likes of Bettiol, Van Avermaet today as well, they'll look to do as little as possible within that front group without being targeted to move towards the front, go towards the front. So for those riders, it's sort of a dream situation they're in now, where they've got GC hopes in there, general classification hopes, and also riders that, like Bettiol, are wanting to get the stage win, so are able to just sit on ever so slightly.
Bettiol had a little bit of trouble this winter. I think he had an injury which took him off the bike for quite some time, and he said in a recent interview that he wants to target the Spring Classics again. Of course, rightly so, the former winner of the Tour of Flanders. But he already seemed pretty eager on Sunday, and he shows again today that he had a good winter despite that little injury that he had.
Yep, definitely. I think when we saw him in the Vuelta there, was it, where he did that amazing attack and he rode across to the TGV, quick step rider. I've forgotten it, Cavagna. He rode across him and then just dropped him off the wheel. He was incredibly strong, that Vuelta, and sort of peaked in the last part of the season. If he can get that form again for the Classics, then he'll definitely be one to watch.
Yeah, he had an inflammation of the bowel in December, meaning that he couldn't train as he wanted to. Of course, you have zero energy if your digestive system doesn't work, and it can be incredibly painful as well. But he's back and very eager for this new peloton. GPS shows 30 seconds at the moment. Seems that everything might be coming back together.
Slowly but surely, the riders behind UAE, Uno X are obviously working very well together, which is odd to see Uno X riders on the front of the chase group and on the front of the front group.
Yeah, they had a very strong Diego Ulissi, and he's also ambitious for this Étoile de Bessèges, also riding there with Pascal Ackermann. But I think this sprint finish today might be a little bit too difficult for Ackermann. Alexis Brunel, who won this stage 2 years ago, Alessandro Covi, absolutely a name to remember, young Italian, fast at the finish line. Vegard Stakering and the Norwegian rider Ivo Oliveira and Joel Sutter. That's the team of Fabrizio Guidi here in this 5-day stage race in the south of France. Work done in the peloton, done by Equipo Kern Pharma. Those are the men in dark green. It's a Spanish second division team, and also our favorite Sources team is helping out as well.
I think what's interesting in where they come through the finish here, they've roughly got about 10k's worth of headwind now until the finish. So if they do come back together, knowing that it's getting closer to finish, there's more of an emphasis to be at the front of the race, get in the front, get your leader to the front, do your job and sit in that wind if you need to. Straight after the finish, another couple of k's after the downhill, it is back into tail crosswind again. So it'll slowly then come back into a headwind, and then just before the finish come back sort to tail crosswind again. So this climb really
Also in this first group, former Belgian champion Dries de Bont, recognisable of course by the little bands on his arm, signifying that he was one day the national champion of his country. And this is the chase put up by the B&B Hotels team. They have an interesting name on the team with Viktor Koretsky. If you follow mountain biking, you might remember that name, but he made a move to road cycling, as so many mountain bikers try these days. There's a lot of overlap now between disciplines. There was a little bit of a hurdle from him getting away from his KTM mountain bike team to this road team, but at the end all the contracts cleared, and it will be interesting to see what Koretsky can do on the road. And he was a really good mountain biker, by the way, often in the top 10 at the World Cup events. Mountain biking, of course, a very popular sport in France. Less so in the Netherlands, for obvious reasons.
Don't know, you can go fast on the flat.
Yeah, on your big tyres.
Yep.
No, you're not going to do that. It's just stupid.
You can just see, though, that gap. It was 30 seconds. It's gone back up to 32. So I think that nature of that front group there, sort of getting that gap, the 30 seconds, 35 seconds rough mark, that's when it sort of eased off. That's when we saw the likes of Bettiol going towards the back ever so slightly, trying to relax a little bit, Filippo Ganna. And I think there's a sort of realisation, look, Ganna's towards the front again. They need to keep this group going. It's a lot safer to be in the group now than going back into the peloton. So it's a case of trying to do as little as you can if you're in this front group, but also do as much as you can where you keep that gap that we see now open enough so that group there doesn't catch back up, because if it does catch back up before this next climb, it's going to be it's going to be a big fight to get into that next climb with cross tailwind after the climb coming as well.
Yeah, absolutely the case. Who makes the call to abort the mission if you are in this second peloton? Is it a sports director? Is it a dedicated rider? Is it just trying and trying until there's no more road left?
I don't think
How do you make a call like that?
It's difficult in these conditions to make a call. You can't make that call, really. I think when it's like this, you need to fight to be at the front. You need to keep rotating, and that's a case of just holding your position as well. I think if you stop that, you're going to go 2 or 3 places back, 3 or 4 places, 5, 6, and it just keeps going until you're in that sort of horrible place where you're in the wind a little bit. So for a lot of riders, it's about being at the front, but also trying in that second group there to do as little as possible almost. We've got EF Education, we can see them on the front, and they're not riding flat out to catch them. You see 3 riders there just on the right hand side of our screen, just sat there out the wind a little bit, not rotating towards the front. They want to be in the position where if something happens they can react to it, but we don't necessarily want to contribute to this chase. And if we are going to contribute, we'll try and slow it down, speed it up, but that also includes danger of riders starting to start this whole echelon again. But we can definitely see the wind, headwind, crosswind is changed direction. It's massively picked up again.
It's that familiar shape of a group, isn't it? When you know there will be battling against the wind. The neutral surface car has left the first group, indicating that the gap is indeed coming down, but it seems to be stalling around this 30-35 second mark as well. Working in the peloton are Team UAE. We have seen UNOX, B&B Hotels as well, and Powell Southern. Those are the teams working here at the helm of the peloton, trying to bring it down within reach, actually. And at the front, they just keep working together with all these strong riders that they have, like Guillaume van Kersburg, Filippo Ganna, Antoine Duchesne, for example, and Tom Squeens, of course, Alberto Bettiol, some of the names in that first group. Also, Lilian Calmejean is there for the Total. Oh, he's not on Total Direct Energie. Where did he go? Where did he go, Adam?
I would tell you if I knew.
Yeah, but these are the kind of things that happen on the first races of the year. We have lost a rider. He has moved on my start sheet.
Yeah, Darrell Impey there, one of the elder statesmen. We recognise him in the Israel kit there, right in the centre of the screen. Navy blue helmet, white shoulders. Brought to that team along with Chris Froome. I think he had a very bad crash last year, which didn't allow him to race too much, but good to see him back in it, and a rider with a lot of experience.
And those are the guys that you need in stages like this, of course, who can read a race and also direct the younger guys on the team. Although at Israel Premier Tech, they don't have a whole lot of young guys. It's the oldest team on the World Tour by far. And they're here with Guillaume Boiffin, Hugo Hull, Taj Jones, Corbin Strong, and the 2 Israelis, Itamar Einhorn and Guy Sagiv, and of course the aforementioned Daryl Impey. 46 kilometers to go as we move towards the finish line here in Bellegarde. There's many Bellegardes in France, by the way, but we're here in the region Gard, one of the departments in the south, the south of France, the historic region of Occitanie. And this is a Côte de la Tour. The official statistics say it's 600 meters at 6.5%, but at the end it kind of flats out just a little bit. It's all happens in the first 200 to 300 meters of the climb.
Yeah, it is going to be a tough one for these riders. Not necessarily getting into that position, but getting into that position more than anything rather than the climbs. I think, you know, with the cross tailwinds after it, a lot of lefts and rights through the centre of the town, it'll be strung out. So being in that position for the cross tailwind after, even in this group now, this group that we're watching here, that front group can split again. So they need to make sure they're in that correct position to be at the front, just in case it splits again. And for the likes of, you know, Kim Hajduk there, looking after Carapaz, looking after Garner, sacrificing himself and trying to put his leaders in the best position possible going into that climb and at the top of the climb as well.
This is the peloton, and just on the top of your screen, passing that row of trees, is that first group on their way to Bellegarde on the left of your screen to the Côte de la Tour. Well, this here are the statistics. 16% max. We do about 48 meters of elevation in such a short period of time. They say it's 800 meters. Depends on where you draw the start line, basically.
Another change in direction now, so just coming back on themselves. They'll have a cross tailwind, so they'll have to get on the gas straight away. And you watch that group behind now. That group behind will have a big old sprint into that. We'll see the gap come down even more, just to make sure they're in that position. You can see that flag there on the left-hand side on that roundabout, cross tailwind. So that group behind, there'll be a frantic sprint as Dries de Bont, I think it is, just it's getting a bit of MotoGP going.
Yeah, this is lap 2. We are approaching the finish line on a different approach than we will do in the last lap. In the last lap, the final 12-13 kilometers will have that cross tailwind, and we have already seen that there is enough wind to try something, and the riders will know that as well, and they will try again in the final of today's race to get rid of some faster guys.
Yeah, they will indeed. I think with the likes of Total Direct Energy we spoke about, they're having so many riders in the front. I think they've got 5 riders there, and we've seen them all rotating so far. We've not really seen one of them really missing turns too much. And if I was the director, I'd be instructing one of them to do as little as possible. We need to protect one guy. We can't all just not necessarily waste our energy, but if you can miss turns, sit on a bit, get another rider with you and save something, it'll put you in a better position. But easier said than done. Easier said than done.
That's all on paper, and now it's time for the execution of your well thought out plan in real life.
Exactly.
Here we go on our way to Côte de la Tour, which means exactly the climb of the tower. There is a tower on the climb, conveniently, so we know where we have to go. Just go to the tower. Through the streets here of Bellegarde with Dries de Bont. Also there, Fabien Duby, the big Norwegian guys. Rasmus Tiller, I think. And here we go. There is that tower. lots of people coming out to see the riders there. Great to see. Little thumbs up there. Bottle. Shell. Look at those trees, that wind there. That's a lot.
This is the Ineos Grenadier there, as we spoke about. Kim Heiduk just going out the back of that group, being caught by this second chasing group, the UAE rider, just getting a nice little toe off the back of that motorbike by the looks of things. He's very close indeed, but that will anger, I think, a lot of people in that front group there, that group splitting.
Bottles flying around there as well, always a little bit of a treacherous situation, feed zone. But as I explained, we now have a 43-kilometre loop where wind will be coming from all sides. So still everything to play for the guys in the peloton. But for a first day of racing, and for many of these riders, it's the first day of racing of the year, it's going to hurt. It's going to be painful. Stage today is 160 kilometres. It doesn't seem like a lot, but if you have to do it 2.5 hours full gas, it's a lot of effort at the start of the season.
Yeah, it's a big effort as well. I think for the main thing here, that's the front group. Just going through our pictures now, and I don't think it's going to be long before we see the back of that UAE rider there. I was just trying to work out who it was. It looked to be like Ulisi that was riding on the front, so he's obviously in good form. Missed the split, rode on the front a lot, and then was able to go hard up that climb as well. Chris Lawler's going over the top of that climb quite well. He's the rider on the front there. Bettiol behind him. That front group's not split too much, but you can just see the wind again just starting to pick up. Everyone's just taking that sort of diagonal line, and look how close that group is. That was chasing behind. That's obviously split on the climb there through that acceleration of Ulisi. It's just the disappointment of not having that many riders with him to contribute now. If they do or do not, that is the question, if they can catch that front group up. This is the one that I was talking about. Brian Coquard as well. So strange not seeing him in green.
It's completely confusing. I'll tell you something else that is completely confusing. The points jersey in this race is yellow.
So Kim Heiduk there, just on the back there from Ineos Grenadiers. He was obviously in that front group. Did a lot of work in that front group and then just slipped back to that group that's chasing them. I wonder if they'll get across, moving into cross tailwind again. The riders in the front, last 40k, last sort of 50 minutes of racing, it's going to be very difficult for that group to catch that front one. But if they do, then I'm sure he'll sacrifice himself to help his leaders. As we see the lead group here, Greg van Avermaet shouting a little bit of instruction there at the front riders. Wisniewski from EF Education.
Such a strong rider. Yep.
This is splitting a lot now. Just Ryan is coming off that climb, sort of scrambling to get to the front and then straight into cross tailwind. It is not easy. You can see if you look at that front group, all of them are fairly fluff out. Mads Pedersen, who we've not really spoke about in this chasing group, which meant when Ulisi and Coquard, they are not too far away, but when the wind's like this, it's a hard gap to close, and you can see this front group is, everyone's working well together, but also trying to save energy, trying to stay at the front, not let any gaps open, not be caught off guard, but wanting to save a little bit as well if they can, coming into the last 39k, last 40k.
Kind of reminds me of the final that we had in 2020. Also everything to pieces in the first stage as well from this Étoile de Bessèges. Here we are with the young German, Kim Hajduk, trying to make his way to that front group again. And of course, Edvald Boasson Hagen, the Norwegian. It took quite some time before he had his contract extension. Him and Nicky Terpstra, of course, big names from the recent past. But judging from his form, Edvald Boasson Hagen might be a contender for today's stage win. Might be, he is. Look at the shape of that first group. The pace is up in this section where we have a tailwind.
Yeah, it definitely is indeed. You can see all the riders moving towards the front in this front group, contributing. That's to stay safe, but also push the pace along. Greg van Avermaet in there, and they are struggling, this group, to get on terms. I said that it's a long way in conditions like this, and with only, what, 2, 4, 6 riders, the Ineos Grenadier rider Kim Hajduk there is sat on the back. He was in that front group but got dropped on the climb, so not many riders to chase. This group down, where the majority, 80% of this group, is rotating and doing their little turn on the front. It's going to be a difficult task for them.
Look at how fast this is going. This is like a 20-man team time trial. And Richard Carapaz, he's shown in the past that he's actually really well equipped to race these kind of wind-swept races, and he's there and will be taking some time on the competition. With regards to, well, the overall win, I think we can already talk about that. If we look at the profile of the climb on Saturday, Le Mont Bouquet, Carapaz is one of the riders probably looking forward to that climb on Saturday and already showing some great form. The rider from Ecuador, of course, former Grand Tour winner as well. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, indeed. And this group here, this is the chasing group behind now. The third group on the road. We've got that small group in the middle. This is the third one, trying to do what they can to try and bring it back to as close as they can and just commit to this now. This is probably the last chance to do it. It goes back into headwind, so they can bring this back in this cross tailwind, split that group down that they're in now ever so slightly, and then use that group towards the front again when they come back into their headwind and go as hard as they can. They might be able to get back on terms with this group here that we're seeing on the right hand side. That's the middle group with Coquard in it. They can do that and then bridge to that front group, but we all know how difficult it is in wind like this to try and make any sort of headway on a group that is rotating so well and working so well together, as we see now on the left.
I think it's Rémi Rochas also in this first group, working well with Clément Rousseau of the Arkea Samsic team. They have 3 or 4 riders. I think I saw Connor Swift in there. Did you?
Yeah, Connor Swift is in that front group for sure, so he's made it in that group, but look how open it is. Oh.
It's lovely, and we'll get the same sort of a stretch of road in the final 15 kilometers, but then with the wind coming from the other side. And this is so difficult for the riders, with Ulissi there with number 37. Kim Hajduk is here. We have the rider from AG Desert Citroën, Rochelle, one of the Total Energie riders who dropped from that first group. We also have in that group Aimé de Gent of the Intermarché Avanti team. And Thibaut Ferras is the rider in green. And here we have Fabien Doubet of Total Energie trying to catch back on and help his teammate. But look at that. This is so difficult to catch back on when you've been dropped.
Yeah, it really is very difficult, and just getting back on, and we've seen that Kim Hajduk there from Team Ineos Grenadiers, he's been sat on the back of that group ever since he got dropped. He's not done a turn, which rightly so he shouldn't do, but in case he does get back on for whatever reason it might be, if they can catch this front group that is absolutely motoring, he might have saved a little bit of energy. So but we can just see, just coming around that corner, look at the wind just building up again. It's turned more into crosswind now. That'll force the riders at the back, put them in difficulty if they are squeezed out on the end of the road. That's why it's so important to rotate your turns, as we see Van Avermaet doing, Ghana doing now. It is crucial. You see on that left-hand side on the road how much of a scramble there is just to try and move up and get in the rotation of riders that are moving through and off. Get that little bit of respite as you go back as well.
I absolutely love this, the shape of an echelon, seeing all the different riders really battling it out, the expressions, expressions on their face as well. It's so painful to watch, and as you explained before, Adam, it's even more painful to be part of it.
Yeah, it really is indeed. That rider right on the right-hand side of the road looks like Scoins right towards the back. He is in the danger position. He's out the wind just, but the last rider on that road being forced into the gutter. If there's no more room for him, he's going to have to push his own wind. And when you're doing that against 2 or 3, 4 riders rotating at the front, it becomes very, very difficult indeed. And the faces have all of a sudden changed quite a lot, haven't they? Everyone's sort of gritting their teeth a little bit more than they were 10 minutes ago.
To ease our nerves, we get a little shot of some sheep there, and then we go back to the echelon action. Tête de la course is, of course, what we want to see, and I am mightily impressed by Richard Carapaz holding his own in this group.
Yeah, it's always with the big general classification riders. They think they're just really climbers, but they can do everything. When you think back to the likes of Chris Froome, he's obviously still racing, but Contador as well. Whenever there was echelons, they were always there. They were always present at the front, and they are very, very capable all-round riders. They can just climb generally a lot better than most, but they can do everything equally just as well. Vincenzo Nibali, when he won that, when he was right up there in the Roubaix stages, yeah, they're all-round riders. They're just exceptionally good at climbing as well. Still can't get my head around seeing Brian Coquard in.
No, it's confusing.
Any other colour apart from green.
And Jeffrey Soup in another colour as well, the man with the most impressive beard in pro cycling. Looks like the peloton is coming back to this group, despite all the efforts there by Diego Ulissi, René de Gent, Kim Hajduk, Jeffrey Soup, Thibaut Ferras, Brian Coquard. Then we have mentioned most of the riders. Back to the first group with Edvald Boasson Hagen and Filippo Ganna. 3 riders as well from the UNOX team, with fast man Christopher Halvorsen there. So that's an interesting prospect if we look at today's finish. Also in that first group are Anders Skarset and Erik Rissel. Big guys as they have at the Norwegian team. They don't have skinny climbers. They only have big guys for the Northern Classics, and one of the most promising riders when it comes to the future, and that is the winner of the Tour of the Future, the Tour de l'Avenir, Tobias Harland Johannessen. Part of twins, identical twins.
Look at the riders on the left-hand side of the picture now. Just another change in direction around that long sweeping corner again, and they're all back over to that left-hand side of the road, that shelter from the trees. Then you can go back, take a rest a little bit, grab your breath before you start moving up in positions. But luckily for these guys, they are not quite, they're just half of the road at the minute, so there's a little bit of space. If they went full road, they could have more space to play with, but maybe that was because of the roundabout. Yes, it is because of the roundabout, apologies. This can be dangerous though, coming out of this roundabout. If you're at the back and they stay on that our left-hand side of the road, now their right-hand side, that gap to try and sprint alone in the wind without any shelter, you can quite easily lose a position coming out of it, and then if you do, you are not getting back on unless you are Ghana, basically.
Ghana could just lead this group all by himself and then still make it to the finish line as a leader. Kort, Greg van Avermaet. Even look at the suffer faces on these guys. They started about, what was it, 40k ago with this effort?
Yeah, it's roughly 40k ago. I think there was a little bit of an ease before they came through the time. Ulissi, this group we're looking at now, almost got on terms with them. 10 seconds, I think it was, and just through the numbers in that group at the front there, rotating, everyone doing a little bit of work has obviously pulled that gap out to 47 seconds. But now back into the headwind, so we might see riders not wanting to push on too much into the headwind, ease off a little bit, try and recover, take some food on, take some drink on. So we might see that gap reduced, but with only, what, 8 riders in that chasing group there behind, I think it'll be a big ask for them to catch these guys back up. There they are.
This is interesting. I wonder if there's a bonus system whenever a rider of Total Energy is in the lead and passes one of their gas stations.
Who knows? Who knows? Free fuel for a year. Brilliant.
Well, that is a lot of money nowadays if you get free fuel for a year. So
it is indeed.
I would love to have that. 48 seconds is what the GPS indicates now on our struggling group, with Diego Ulissi still trying to give it his all. And yeah, the team that missed out basically on the entire first group is Groupama FDJ. I think it's only Antoine Duchesne that is still in that first group, but they missed it with Pinot, for example.
Yeah, he sat fourth wheel there. You can see him just sort of rocking over that bike, and then the really big peloton, the almost gruppetto, chasing on behind. But yeah, he's not known really for his crosswind expertise, so it's a big day. I think being a teammate and knowing what's coming, it'll be quite a tough day in terms of, right, come on, let's get to the front, we don't want to miss this. And then when it happens, you're just like, oh god, we're gonna have to ride now on the front for this amount of time to do it. It's I'm not going to say it's demoralising, but sometimes when you have to look after a leader like that and you know that you can be up in this front group, it is very difficult to do mentally, especially if you have to do it from the start of the season right until the end of it. But it's part of your job, I guess.
Latvian national champion Tom Skuins has been wearing that jersey a lot in recent years, until the year that they scheduled the Latvian national champions bang in the middle of the Tour de France. So one day he had a champion's jersey and the other day he did not. Tom Skuins is going to focus on the classics for the first time this year, and well, judging from his echelon action, he is kind of ready for that. Bring him on to Gent-Wevelgem.
Exactly. Just saw Filippo Ganna there, just moving out from the wheel and looking back, maybe looking for Carapaz. And Carapaz, let's not forget, he can win this race overall. But also having Filippo Ganna, probably the tallest man, one of the tallest men in this bike race, having him and probably the most powerful man in this bike race as a teammate and riding in front of you, you can save a lot of energy by riding behind him, by following him, not having to fight to get in position into crosswinds, etc. So having him there, out of all the riders in the team, is perfect for Richard Carapaz, and it's perfect for Garner as well. He doesn't really have to stress too much, you know. Both the team leaders, I'd say, within this race are at the front.
I must admit that I like seeing Edvald Boasson-Hagen at the front again. Seems such a nice guy, such an incredible palmarès. Fantastic stage wins in the Tour de France, for example. Time to fuel up here in this first group. Some gels at this stage of the race, I assume. No more bars.
Yeah, you can just sort of see the emphasis ever so slightly just taken out of this front group. It's just a couple of seconds shaved off, moving into the headwind. No one wants to waste energy riding into the headwind, so we're seeing less riders coming to the fore and riding on the front because you don't want to waste their energy. Oh, bit of cramp there for the not Neo Pro, Kim Heiduk.
Can you blame him?
Yes, you can. He's paid to do this job. He shouldn't have cramp. I'm only joking.
He should have drank before. I got this bike computer that says when you need to drink, because apparently people tend to forget.
I should use that for evenings on the sofa.
Or you can just have your iPhone just ping you. It's like, time to go to the fridge. Have a drink. Drink of your choice.
Oh dear.
This is still the chasing group with Diego Ulissi doing most of the work here. No Benoit Cosnefroy in this race of the AG2R Citroën team. He was scheduled to race here and also has had ambitions for this race, but he had a sad family case. Somebody in his family died, I think Sunday, so he had to cancel this race. There he is, Connor Swift, the former British champion, winner of Trobro-Léon last year. And he's in this group with Mess Pedersen if he goes to some sprinting power, and Edvald Boasson-Hagen as well. This is Antoine Duchesne, so one of the riders of the smaller teams. And that is Thomas Bouda. Of course, he always was on the bigger teams, the track cycling star there in the pink. Thomas Bouda has decided to join this smaller team, now called Go Sport Roubaix Lille Métropole, to prepare for the Paris Olympics in 2024 and do some road racing in between. Also fast man here is the man in red, Hugo Hofstetter. Has won some races in fast finishes before, so a few names there with a good set of legs when it comes to a bunch sprint finish. But judging from the climb we just saw, do you think it will be a sprint or a late attack?
A sprint up the climb. Someone could attack from the bottom and it could be classed as a sprint or an attack, but it's very, very narrow, as we saw up there. It's not a... There'll be a big fight into the bottom of it. There'll be lead outs for their team leaders, but I think we'll see a not pure sprinter, but a punchy rider go up there. But you can save and waste so much energy in the run into this finish. You could have great legs at the minute by not doing too much work and just fighting to stay in position in tailwind, crosswind. You can waste a lot, so you obviously got to have good legs. But the likes of, you know, Bettiol in there, we know he's got quite an explosive sprinter up that sort of territory. So's Chris Lawless in there. We've seen him doing quite a lot of work on the front. And also this man, Edvald Boasson-Hagen, he's run very similar stages to this in the past. So it's very hard to judge this sort of early on in the season how people are going. We know obviously they've all got great form coming into it, but that high end bit, a lot of riders might not really have that super high end kick at the minute.
Oh,
and we can
look
see
at this!
bit of a crosswind.
The wind is picking up, not even ever so slightly, but quite seriously. Itamar Einhorn is the rider there in the, I must say, rather lovely new kit of Israel Premier Tech, and of course the golden bike of the Olympic champion there, Richard Carapaz. I have the full composition of this first group with 4 riders for Alpecin Fenix: Dries de Bont, Guillaume van Kersbulk, Julien Vermoten in his first race back after a long injury, and Jay Fine. We also have 4 riders for Total Energie with Boasson-Hagen and Chris Lawless. We already mentioned them before. Pierre Latour and Mathieu Bourgado. 4 riders as well for Team Arkea Samsic with Hugo Hofstetter, Colin Swift, Mathis Louvel and Clément Rousseau. Greg van Avermaet is there with his teammate Clément Champoussin. Luca Colnaghi is there for Bardiani. Ganna and Carapaz for the Ineos Grenadiers. Mets Pedersen and Tom Squeens, of course, for Trek Segafredo. Bettiol, Keukelere and Wisniewski for EF Education, Easy Post, and Itamar Einhorn for Israel Premier Tech. So some fast guys there at the front.
I'd love to see that man win as well. Great.
I do as well. Yep. There's been a lot of commentary around Greg van Avermaet. Because he basically said, I would like to postpone my COVID booster shot until after the classics as not to disrupt my preparation. And in the French media, he was instantly dubbed the Belgian Djokovic. Yeah,
I saw that, yeah. It's very difficult, isn't it, even if it's just that sort of placebo thing where you think it's going to affect you even though it doesn't. I don't think at the minute there's any science to say that it does affect you, it doesn't affect you, but as I said, in your head, if you know it does, then you're going to try and fight not to have it, because obviously if you go into a race not 100% confident, it's going to be very, very difficult indeed.
Meanwhile, it is necessary that you had your booster shot if you want to race here in France, or be vaccinated, or be recovered from COVID. And in the case of Greg van Avermaet, that is the case. He had COVID over the holidays, I think, the Christmas period, so that means that he is allowed to race here in France. On Sunday, one of the riders of the Sport Vlaanderen Baloise team was actually refused the start in the Grand Prix Marseillaise because his vaccination was not up to date.
Wow.
Longer than 270 days old. So if you want to go to France, just watch what the rules are. Look at those little guard dogs there. They've got quite a big job there with just the 3 of them. Oh, there's more on the other side. Big flock. And of course, I forgot to mention the 3 guys from UNOX, our favorite Viking team, with Halverson, Erik Reesel and Anders Skarset. Yeah, and I think the biggest team missing out here, or two actually, are UAE Team Emirates and Groupama FDG. Both no representation at the front in the case of Team UAE, and only one in the case of Groupama FDG with Antoine Duchesne, meaning that this race has not gone off to a great start for Thibaut Pinot.
No, I think that's very fair to say indeed.
Oh, look at that.
It's just hovering. It went down to 30 seconds, didn't it? That chasing group in the middle with those riders has been brought back now. So all together in this peloton behind. There's no riders in front of them apart from that front group there that we've seen with these guys in that we're watching now. So, yeah, Pedersen as well. He's definitely one to watch today. If he's got his climbing legs on, as he did in Harrogate at the Worlds, I think we definitely want to watch up this climb. But with Tom Screens in there as a teammate, it's all about following these other big teams and making sure you can benefit from them rather than putting yourself in the wind too much.
Awesome little helmet hair going on there at the front. Yeah, Miss Pedersen already third last Sunday in the opening race of the French National Cup, Grand Prix La Marseillaise. And also on the podium there was Edvald Boasson-Hagen. So these two guys already showing some early season form on Sunday and today again on Wednesday. The crosswind section is coming up in about, I think, 4 kilometers from now.
It's never stopped.
No, it has never. We only had a little headwind part, but yeah. It's been cross tail, cross left, cross right.
Yeah.
We only had that little kick. And we're going to have a headwind sprint, by the way. And if we just saw the images from the finish line, there's a lot of wind out there.
Yeah, there is a heck of a lot of wind as well. And I think going into the finish, if you can, I think it's just ever so slightly, just looking at Velo Viewer, it's ever so slightly cross headwind. So if you can start your sprint on their right-hand side, the riders' right-hand side of the barriers there, then they're going to have to come the hard way round into the wind, no shelter. If you sprint on the left-hand side of the road, you're going to protect the rider, whoever's behind you, and give them a little bit of a launch pad. So the directors will have given them this note. They'll have done the climb before, so they'll know all this already. But yeah, it's not an easy sprint, never mind the climb, but the wind also will play a big part in it.
Another World Tour team called out in the front group is Intermarché-Wanty. They are here with Aimé de Gent, who tried. He was in that little counter group. Theo Delacroix, Julius Johansson, promising new Dane on the team. Simone Petilli, Boy van Poppel, Georg Zimmermann and Gerben Thijssen. They're also all in this group now, losing about 40 seconds to this first group of, I think it's 22 riders.
Even in this group behind, look, 39 seconds, it's just hovering around that 40-second mark. But even the work being put in at the front all the time, there's only sort of 7 or 8 riders really rotating at the front. Where if you look at the front group with Greg van Avermaet, Boasson-Hagen on the front now, they've got sort of 15 riders, 16 riders all the time just rotating through. So not as much of an effort from that front group, but just more people going to the front and contributing is obviously helping a lot more.
And it doesn't really look that far. And we've already been doing this frantic pace for 50 kilometers now. And you see that at the tail end of this group, some riders are suffering. And if the wind is, that is bad luck for Dries de Bont.
I wonder if that was a crash he had. We saw Wisniewski there from EF just sort of flick on the road as we just saw them in that spot. I wonder if he just caught a wheel and hit the floor, because if he's leant over the bike like that, he's obviously didn't look to have a problem with his bike, so there might have been a little crash that we missed in that front group there, and that could enable some gaps to appear, some riders not be able to get back on ever so slight crosswind still. So we shall see when we get pictures of that front group, but I doubt it will have happened. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was the kind of posture that you don't have when you have a flat tire, but more like that you have to really recover from the shock of going down.
Yeah, exactly. It definitely looked more of a crash victim than something else. But there's another rider. Look, you can see right towards the front. I can't make out who that is. It seems to be a AG2R rider. Can't work it out. Doesn't.
They have two in that first group with both Lilian Calmejean and Greg van Avermaet. So I guess it will be Calmejean as van Avermaet. Really solid impression.
Yeah, so there must have been a crash or something there, and maybe two of them got tangled up in it, and Dries de Bonte hitting the floor, but that's two less in that front group now. And Dries de Bonte would obviously be a very good rider to get in position, so they're missing one crucial rider now, Alpecin Fenix.
Meaning they still have three riders left with Julien Vermoten, Jay Vine and Guillaume van Kersbulk. Good riding by Jay Vine, the winner of the Swift Racing Academy.
It's that front group, and Van Avermaet there, just second wheel on the left-hand side in the white, those classic brown shorts. So it wasn't him that went down. Which is obviously great news for Greg, but a teammate down to help him coming into the finals. Not always ideal, but sometimes I think for Greg, he's, as we know, he's very experienced, knows where to put himself, and he'll do everything he can without wasting too much energy to put himself in that perfect position.
Final 18 kilometers, and the gap is now hovering around 30 seconds between this first group and the peloton. Working at the front there, Israel Premier Tech, also Paul Sauser-Bingle and Intermarché Vanti and UNOX as well.
I love seeing the general classification riders up in the groups like this. I think it's so good to see them racing and not doing just the, you know, the big grand tours, and just targeting them coming into this race obviously on good form and putting himself right at the forefront straight from the early season into racing and getting properly stuck in as he is doing. It's brilliant. First glimpse of Laurens de Plus. Not seen him for a long time due to some illness. He's fourth wheel in line at the minute, moving up towards the front. He's obviously got Garner in front and Carapaz, who I was just mentioning. He won't really contribute to this. Just sit up a little bit, won't go to the front and push the pace on. He'll just try and hold position to stay as safe as he can.
Rasmus Tiller at the front there for UNOX. And the entire squad there of Sport Vlaanderen Baloise as well. But things are happening here at the front with teams that have four riders in the break. Total Energie with this man, Boas van Hagen. But Boas van Hagen is doing a lot of work in this group, and it makes me think that they might go for Chris Lawless in this finish.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think with the turn there, just turning back into a tailwind again, and we saw the a Samsek rider sort of directing Carapaz to say, go to the other side of the road now. We've changed direction, which he did. So it's very, I think in this situation, you know, Chris obviously went up that climb last time very well, right at the front of the group. So he's obviously got good legs. It's just who they go for and which they decide to go for. And it can be frustrating if they say, for Chris, for example, if they say, right, we're going to ride for Boas van Hagen today, and he's got extremely good legs, but that's by the by. I think he'll get his chance to go. He's obviously on good form. It'd be interesting if he, who they choose. As you say, it could be Chris.
It looks like Filippo Ganna is not even tired just yet.
Poker face. He never tries that hard.
Lukas Wisniewski is the Polish rider here for the EF Education Easy Post team. The guys in pink and green. Ness Peterson there at the tail end of this group, together with Burgado. And one rider for Cofidis, that's Benjamin Thomas.
Who is also very, very quick.
Absolutely,
very
a track
quick
rider
indeed.
as well.
Yeah, he's definitely one to watch.
Multiple world champion, just like his, well, team pursuit mate in the French national team, Thomas Bouda. He is in the pink and the only rider of a third division team in this first group. Anders Skarset and Christopher Halverson. Lovely little moustache action going on here. and Pedersen right back to the front now. Lovely to see this rider from Israel, Itamar Einhorn, who has done fast finishes as well in the past. Might be a rider to look out for, but he's on his own. He has to do all the work himself.
We saw there Pedersen just coming up to the front. He's going backwards now. The Trek Segafredo jersey, there he is, just behind Filippo Ganna. The last shot we had of him was right at the back, and now he's right back at the front of things. So it's not a case of wanting to contribute and ride on the front. More for him, it's to get in position. Sometimes it's riding through like this is a lot easier than trying to stay at the back in the gutter and sort of fight to stay at the back. It's sometimes easier just to rotate at the front, as he just did, to stay as fresh as possible, really. I know that sounds ridiculous, but saving energy by riding on the front.
I also want to tip this rider for a late attack, Alberto Bettiol. He was already doing that in early stages in Sunday's race in Marseille, and he has some teammates doing the work there with Kokeler and Wisniewski. Been sitting on as much as you can say that in this echelon action that you can just sit on, but this finish kind of suits him.
I think he's only got Wisniewski there in there with him. I think Kukler is in that second group. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's just two of the riders in there, and Wisniewski, as we know, he could do a fantastic leader. And I think for Bettiol, if he was to go for it, he'd have to go right from the bottom of the climb, really string it out and hope that the power that he was able to put down, no one could match or come round, and especially with sort of the cross headwind coming into the finish. If someone wants to come round, then they're going to have to put in a big effort. It'll be a big effort anyway, obviously, but a bigger one.
Biggest. Tobias Ludvigsson at the front there with Thibaut Pinot, trying to limit the damages there. Trying to get as close to that front group as they can get, but time is running out to return, and it might only seem 32 seconds, but it has been like this for the past 20 kilometers, and they have not come any closer than this.
No, they haven't done anything, and that's the job that Group R will be doing on the front. Just try and limit their losses, try and get as close as you can to them, you know, and they'll be doing that, but that group is working very well at the front. All this group behind is the riders that are riding on the front now are just thinking, we need to get as close as we can to the front. We need to try and limit that gap to what it can be at the finish. So we just need to ride flat out until the climb, and then just let Pinot do his thing up the climb and try and reduce that gap even more. The riders in the front will be thinking, we need to keep this gap for as long as we can until the finish, but also we need to think about the stage win as well. So not sure if all these riders in the front will be absolutely flat out as opposed to what the other riders are on the front of that group behind.
Connor Swift getting to the front there, has three teammates here. Arkea Samsic, of course, won the opening race of the French season with Amaury Capiot, and they have good representation as this group as well. That will make the team managers happy. UNOX versus UNOX at the moment.
It's always good to see, isn't it?
It's bad optics, but they can't help it. They have to do all the work together. But at the moment, it's just two teams doing the work with Groupama FDG and UNOX, and they are losing ground.
You can just see there, Jersey, in that front group, Greg van Avermaet just sat that white bike in the middle of the road. Sort of the front going through there is that riders are starting not to work a little bit. A bit of, no, you're okay, I'll miss that turn. And that'll help the riders chasing behind. Not everyone is wanting to contribute now. A lot of the riders that will help their leaders go to the finish will keep rotating. But as we know, there's obviously protected riders in this. There's riders in this front group that want to go for the stage win, and there are riders that won't want to go for it as well. It's just getting that mix right and not getting too carried away with trying to get other riders to come through and just committing to your job and trying to keep that gap as far away as possible from that chasing group.
I'm not a big fan of the golden bike, to be honest, but I like the nice little bands on the arm with the gold on the carapace. I love it.
If I'd go full gold everything.
I bet you would. I think you would.
Everything.
Without any doubt, Adam. Without any doubt on my mind. But
it's gold teeth.
It's very much in your face. It's very gold, just like Viviani had on the track.
Perfect.
Bling all over the place.
Exactly.
A little solo effort here from one of the Groupama FDG. He shrugs his shoulders. Yeah, this is completely useless.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? In this point now, he obviously wants to just ride on the front. He's not asking for help. He just wants to keep the pace going. As the other riders behind, like, oh no, I don't need to bring this back. I don't need to ride that hard. I don't want to ride that hard. So it's difficult. And EF, they're obviously not going to ride. Tom Scully in the middle of the screen there. He's not going to commit to that. Magnus Cort on his left. Michael Valger and Jens Kukelaar.
Yeah, they have two. Yeah, they have two strong riders in that first group with Wisniewski and, of course, Alberto Bettiol.
That was the moment there. Look, Scully in the pink there from EF Education, just not following the wheel, not being bothered about it, doesn't need to press on more. They don't want to bring that gap back, so just missing that wheel and not chasing it has enabled them to play around a little bit and let this group just gain a little second, half a second or two. Not too much, but could be crucial at the end of 5 days.
We do have bonus seconds on the finish line, 10, 6 and 4. Crucial days will be Saturday, uphill finale on Le Mont Bouquet and the traditional time trial in Alès with the climb to l'Hermitage on Sunday. Those are the most important days, but also the ride on, or the stage on Friday is going to be pretty exciting with about 3 climbs, little Ardennes kind of style climbs in the final 15 kilometers. Lots to look out for and to look forward to here on GCN with Étoile de Bessèges as we make our way to today's finish place of Bellegarde. We started there earlier this afternoon, European time, and we are going back to Côte de la Tour to crown our first winner, who is going to get a coral-coloured leader's jersey. Coral.
Nice. Different. I like the idea. Just see this a little bit of narrow road now, just from this front group. Riders all on their right-hand side of the road, our left of the screens, obviously, and just not too much of a diagonal line. That just indicates there's a slight crosswind, not too much. I think if it was a pure crosswind, then you see them scrambling at the back and really tight at the front, but everyone seems quite happy with this group at the minute and not fighting for position too much.
Well, if they start looking at each other, this, 9K from the finish line, those 30 seconds might be gone instantly, or somebody else goes up the road. So I think you have to work together as long as you can, basically up to the foot of the climb, I should say.
You could be right with your shout of Chris Lawless there from Total Direct Energy. I've not seen him come to the front and do a turn as of yet. Got Mads Pedersen on the front, who we mentioned earlier, doing the same thing, but rotating through just to keep that position. But Lawless has been sat on the back for good 10Ks now, so that could be the indication, Jose, as you mentioned there, that they could be going for him today.
Yeah, they have, of course, strength in numbers with 4 riders in that first group. Also important to mention that Pierre Latour is there as one of their GC hopefuls. Good time trialist, of course, former national champion, and a great climber as well, judging from his stage win in the Vuelta a couple of years ago. So he's one of the GC hopefuls next to, amongst others, Richard Carapaz in that first group. And why not Jay Vine if he's still there? But I don't see a whole lot of Alpecin Fenix anymore, do you?
Yeah. It's really hard to say, isn't it? I think with a win like this, it does take a lot out of riders. Some are better at riding in crosswinds than others, and a lot of riders can save a lot of energy in crosswinds. You don't have to have the biggest engine in the world to get in that group or stay in that group, really. It's just about being efficient and using your energy when needs be. And as I said, some riders are good at it, some are bad at it, and the riders from Alpecin, you never know that some might have just been flying under the radar a bit, saved a lot of energy and able to just do a magnificent sprint at the end. We just don't know. These conditions throw up so many outcomes that it's very rarely predictable.
I do see Guillaume van Kerswelk is still in this group. He was one of the instigators of this echelon action. 50, 60 kilometers ago. He is still there. Unfortunately, Dries de Bont dropped out of this group, but officially we should still have two other riders of Alpecin Fenix, judging from race radio. There is one other Alpecin Fenix rider all the way at the back of the group, but whether that is Jay Vine or Julien Vermoten remains to be confirmed. Less than 7 kilometers to go on our way to the finish line with, this is the second group here, with Jeffrey Soep there of TotalEnergies. Of course, his team is in a great position there in that first group with Lukas Wisniewski. He is worth his, well, considerable weight in gold today, and has Alberto Bettiol there sitting nicely, well, all things considered, in that group, ready to plot that final attack.
26 seconds, 6k to go. It has trickled down very, very slowly indeed. It's not gone up a little bit. I think there might be a couple of seconds it can shave off, just hovering around that 27, 28 seconds mark. You can see this group, they're not, the emphasis doesn't seem as big as the group behind. They don't seem as though they're as flat out, let's say, but maybe that's just all of them trying to play the poker faces a little bit.
Here we have Guillaume van Kersbulk. That is Buddha in the pink, and Benjamin Thomas, Itamar Einhorn. And all the way at the back of the group is Chris Lawless. Obviously the protected rider of the team. So Alpecin Fenix are down to one rider indeed, Guillaume van Kersbulk. There he is. He was the man who started this attack and still finds himself at the front. Of course, coming from the quick-step school of echelon riding, Guillaume van Kersbulk.
Lawless is going to be in a difficult situation now, just coming around that corner into more of a crosswind. You can see how fanned the riders are across the road, and with Chris just being right at the back, it's not the best place to be. He's got a teammate in front of him, and luckily, but he needs to just move up a little bit, get himself a little bit more sheltered if you're going to go for a sprint race, save that little bit of energy. You see Van Avermaet just sort of dancing on the pedals a bit, not pedalling too hard, and there we go, the front little bit. There, Wisniewski just looking over his shoulder and not getting anyone to help him there, so you can just see by that sort of indication that people are thinking of the finish. There we go again, another one.
Oof, this is an interesting scenario. They start looking at each other. Those 27 seconds might not be enough. Here we go. Final roundabout, although in France you never know because they have so many of them. And just like you explained before, Adam, being there in last wheel after one of these roundabouts will cost you just a little bit of extra energy to get back to the front as everything's strung out again.
Yeah, exactly. You see Pedersen just rolling through again, trying to get things moving. He's got near his teammate Thomas Screens there, so he's moved up around him, get a little bit of support off him, get the help off of him. Carapaz at the front, Van Avermaet behind him, then Ganna. Ganna's moved up a little bit as well. He was moving up on the left-hand side, but that little bit of extra wind came in to get around Richard, try and protect him that little bit more. This is the chasing group behind. Just 3 Israel riders riding on the front. Magnus got to say, no, we're not here to help. We've got some riders in the front. Whoa!
Yeah, they have to trust the sprinting abilities of Itamar Einhorn, the rider there in the first group representing Israel Premier Tech. But I would like to go back to that first group to see what is actually happening there as we approach Bellegarde again and that Côte de la Tour. Lukas Wisniewski, he is so incredibly strong, doing all that work there for his man, and that is Alberto Bettiol, followed by Connor Swift and Mathieu Burgado of the TotalEnergies team. Pierre Latour also coming to the front with 1:33 is Mathis Louvel. They now try to position their fastest rider, Hugo Hofstetter, the rider with 1:32 to the front there. Former winner of Grand Prix Le Samyn. Totally different circumstances, but still very hard race nonetheless.
Yeah, I just saw Hofstetter there as well, just indicating to Connor Swift to come back in the wheel. So he's obviously the chosen one for the sprint today.
It's very Lord of the Ringsy.
Yeah, exactly. So you just see him just moving back down the line there. Don't want to go back too much with it being a fast finish and a run-in. Moving up at this speed is difficult. If you can get to the front a little bit, note where Van Avermaet is just sat behind the biggest man probably in that group. Filippo Ganna knows he's a strong rider, knows he can trust him to be in the right position, and there's Chris Lawless right on the back with his teammate, just looking to move up a little bit. Bosenhagen as well, moving up now, so direct energy. One rider on the front, keeping the tempo high, and then two other riders leading out their designated sprinter, who we think is Chris Lawless.
Also piloting to the front, piloting Mads Pedersen to the front is Tom Skuins, taking his new job as a classics man very seriously today here in this first windy stage of Étoile de Bessèges. Final kilometre is coming up ever so fast. The peloton will, well, I can say not come back, safe to say. So we are looking at well, Chris Lawless, we are looking at Mads Pedersen. Christopher Halvorsen is there for UNO-X. Alberto Bettiol, a name to look out for, as well as Pierre Latour really tries everything to get his man to the front. Chris Lawless is there with Mads Pedersen just behind him. Also Bettiol, we have Gard protecting Carapaz there, of course, for the GC hopes. Although Carapaz can do a little attack on that climb as well. Why not? He's done it in Poland.
Yeah, and he's got Ganna in front of him, protecting him from the wind a little bit. Chris Lawless in a great position, and Bettiol, look at the position Bettiol's got himself into. Right on Lawless's wheel, he's got Pedersen, well, Skuins and Pedersen just behind him. Carapaz just fighting to stay on that wheel of Ganna a little bit, coming into these corners. You can just see how narrow it is. Lawless now right on the back of those riders. Bosenhagen next. There we go, there's the sort of launch attack as you would from total direction. Chris Lawless second wheel.
Following Mathieu Burgado after Lawless, it's Bosenhagen. Behind him is Mads Pedersen. We also have Clément Rousseau there in the red of Arkea Samsic. Of course, Richard Carapaz trying to get to the front there. Christopher Halvorsen as well. In the colours of Cofidis is Benjamin Thomas trying to move to the front. Of course, in the pink, Alberto Bettiol. But for now, it's a lead out for, well, Total Energie with Lawless there getting to the front. Chris Lawless, you have to time it correctly. Mads Pedersen is trying to get to the wheel of the Brit there.
Yeah, Lawless doing a fantastic job. Now Pedersen just coming over the top of him. Oh, this is nice.
The hardest part of the climb. It kind of levels out at the end. You really have to time it well, and it looks like Mads Pedersen has done that perfectly with Lawless cramping up there. Rousseau getting to the front. Final 150 meters for the world champion, the former world champion of Heliket, Mads Pedersen, on his second race day of the year. Is he going to win the stage? If the camera would actually show us, yes, he is. First stage won by Mads Pedersen. Great work as well by Tom Skuins. Second place seems to be, I think it's Hofstetter, but we'll have to confirm. And great work by Filippo Ganna as well. Look at that, Carapaz didn't have it in that little uphill kick and is losing a little bit of time there with regards to the GC.
And this is the remains of Guillaume Coinquier's book there on the back of, on the front of that group. He was in the front group there and just went backwards, obviously. And now just the remains of that chasing group has caught up, roughly 38-39 seconds. So that gap went out in the end, not down as I thought it would.
Great timed attack there by the Dane. Nice little celebration there with Tom Skuins, who was absolutely vital to the win of Mads Pedersen here, doing a lot of work in that first group and also establishing actually the echelon together with Van Kersburg.
Yeah, that was an exciting final. I was just thinking back through it then, and Lawless just went on the hardest part of the climb, kicked down really hard, got that initial gap, and then just as it went round the corner and flattened off ever so slightly, it was just like he couldn't quite keep on top of it, and Pedersen just being consistent all the way up the climb, didn't react immediately to jump on that wheel. The gap opened a little bit, and then just at the hardest time, he just was able to jump past Lawless and hold his effort all the way to the line. And I think the total direct energy riders there were 3rd, 4th and 7th or 6th maybe, so 3 of them all up there. It's just a case of trying to work out, being in a new team, who's got the best legs for these finishes, and I'm sure they'll get to it. But great to see that team up there all together, but just not quite being able to deliver that win with as many riders in the front.
This is Luca Colnaghi, who was also in that first group until he was not anymore, and he's showing us how incredibly hard this climb is when you got tired legs. Yep, for tomorrow we are moving to Rousson. Same kind of finish, Adam, but then even longer. So that's going to be exciting as well. The Plateau de Castella is going to be our finish climb, and it's 1,600 meters long at 6.3% average. So might be a little bit too difficult for the real punchers, and we go towards more climber-style winner tomorrow.
I'd say it's kind of hard to say, like, what is a climber-style winner these days? You know, most of the sprinters can climb now, as we've just seen, for example. Yeah, it's really difficult.
We don't have the Cipollini kind of sprinters anymore, don't we?
No, I'd say like the nearest person to like a pure sprinter this day and age is the likes of Caleb Ewan, Cavendish, Groenewegen, these type of riders, Viviani, but so many of them can climb now. Like Van Aert, he can win on the Champs-Élysées and he can win up mountains. So I think it will definitely be someone. He's obviously got a problem with his gears there, yeah.
He's stuck on the big ring.
Big ring and in the 11. Awful.
It's Francesco Galvan, the number 3 of La Marseillaise on Sunday.
So yeah,
Alex Kirsch.
I think it'll be difficult tomorrow with the. It depends a lot on the wind and how it's played out during the final, but I'm sure we'll probably see this man right up towards the front again. 1.6k. I think that is probably doable for him.
Let's look at the wind conditions for tomorrow as we have the top 10 first with Pedersen, Hofstetter, Boasson-Hagen, Bettiol, Burgado, Lawless, Ganna, Thomas, Van Avermaet and Skuinch with 11 seconds between the number 1 and the number 10. Meaning, of course, Mess Pedersen is going to wear that coral-coloured leader's jersey. Very curious to see what that is looking like. He will wear that tomorrow with Hofstetter in the yellow jersey as the points jersey here. Hugely confusing what that is. Tomorrow we have a fantastic day of bike riding. 16 degrees Celsius and hardly any wind.
Yeah, this was the moment here. You see Lawless sat in second wheel, and this is when he goes. This is his attack. You see Pedersen just responding to it, not reacting immediately, just closing the gap slowly. And I think it's round about this point here. Lawless obviously puts in that big initial jump to go away clear, and it's just at this point he ties his up. You can see his head rocking backwards and forwards. Pedersen, just in a slightly smaller gear, is able to come past him. Lawless tries to respond, but it's just this bit where it flattens off ever so slightly. They both sit down, and Mads was able to just squeeze that power on a little bit, get back out the saddle and just open up that gap ever so slightly. And Lawless there just cramping up a little bit towards the finish, blowing a little bit, and then you've got the likes of Boasson-Hagen, who's just very experienced and can hold on to that big high-end power effort. Didn't necessarily close that gap right at the start, but was able to hold that same power the whole way up the climb. So it's a fantastic win for Mads Pedersen, well timed, and for Total Direct Energy. Great to see so many of them up there, but a little bit of work to do on who and how they approach those finishes in the future. But nevertheless, great to see all of them, including Chris Lawless, right up towards the front.
Filippo Ganna going up a hill faster than Richard Carapaz today is a remarkable take with regards to the GC. But Mess Pedersen is our leader ahead of Hofstetter, Boasson-Hagen, Bettiol, etc. The top 10 of today, of course. Tomorrow we'll be back the same time here on GCN, Adam Blythe and myself, Jose Bain. So that's 2:45 European time, 1:45 p.m. British time. And wherever you are in the world, I can't convert all those times for you, to be honest.
Me neither.
And there's our tour, or tower, the name giver of this hill. The highlights reel from this first stage of Étoile de Bessèges with a lot of wind action and one lonely rider at the front. And despite all his effort, Lindsay de Velder of Sport Vlaanderen Baloise, he was not caught on camera even once. There was not even a camera bike with him while he was riding in the lead. We had a little crash there in the peloton as everybody was getting nervous. And this is the moment that the echelon was formed with Dries de Bont and Guillaume van Kersbulk, the two riders of Alpecin Phoenix, initiating that attack about 60 kilometers out. Greg van Avermaet was there, as was Antoine Duchesne, Guillaume van Kersbulk, all the riders, Alberto Bettiol, we've named them all. And then the group broke into two pieces again. Thibaut Pinot was not in that group. He actually, well, has a different bike here. This is not his size, nor has he got a number plate on it. So he has to have a spare bike, maybe a problem there. Maybe he crashed. We haven't seen exactly what happened to Thibaut Pinot, but we hopefully will see him on Saturday when we go uphill on Le Mont Bouquet. The weather circumstances here in the south of France, it was breezy, as there is probably some family. Though the riders from the other side, of course, just like the Champs-Élysées, where you can just watch them go on the other side of the road. Richard Carapaz is probably one of the biggest names in that first group, taking a little, well, dig at the GC win on Sunday in this Étoile de Bessèges. And Thibaut Pinot back in that second group, losing time for his GC ambitions. Already his team missed out on the split, apart from Antoine Duchesne, the Canadian, in that first group. Then we go towards the finish. Final kilometre, early attack by Chris Lawless, who was in this first group with no less than 3 teammates. But he went on the steepest bit of the Côte de la Tour, the first 300 metres. But former world champion Mess Pedersen timed it even better and left Lawless standing there on Côte de la Tour, on his way to his first win of the season and the leader's jersey here in Étoile de Bessèges. Already good on Sunday in Grand Prix La Marseillaise, and having a win on the second day of your road season is always a nice start to the year. Still riders at the finish line now. So, no more wind tomorrow, Adam. Sadly.
Sadly. But that will maybe, I'm not going to say open the race up more. It's not going to open the race up more, but it'll be a more pure, there'll be not as much luck involved or unluckiness. Unluckiness, is that a word?
Hey, don't ask me. I'm not British. I don't know anything about English.
But yeah, I think it'll be more of what we expect tomorrow. Today, anything could have happened as it did. We didn't really expect, we couldn't name each and every one of those riders that will be in that front group today before the race happened, where tomorrow, I think without the wind, we can probably name the riders that are going to be up there. And guess the ones that will be going to be fighting for that win. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow. A little bit of a longer climb at the finish, as you said. Not too much wind and a little bit lumpier. And with that sort of first day out the way, and a lot of riders probably in anger and getting a telling off from their team directors for missing that group today, they'll be out with something to prove.
Yeah, no less than 1,700 meters of elevation tomorrow, so pretty lumpy indeed. But as you said, nowadays it doesn't really matter anymore because everybody can go over a hill better than they could in previous years. I don't know if we're going to stay for the podiums. If we're not, thank you very much for watching. Wherever you are in the world, let us know where you are on Twitter. Always interesting to see where you are watching. At Tour de José on Twitter, or Adam Blythe, 89?
Correct.
89? That young?
Yeah, just.
Oh, wow. Incredible.
Sorry.
You come to that stage in life that most people get younger than you are, and the entire peloton is younger than me. But
And
oh well. And you, well, we still have Valverde, don't we? Who will be very much, and Rebellin, who's even older than I am. The Classement Général, the general classification. Let's see what will happen tomorrow and if that will change, or will we see the Danish Trek Segafredo rider Mads Pedersen in the leader's jersey after tomorrow's stage as well. Yep, see you tomorrow then.
Perfect, see you tomorrow.
Puisque les coureurs qui l'accompagnaient n'étaient pas les premiers. Il fallait être fort pour aller chercher la victoire dans